Listen carefully, because this might hit closer than you expect. There was a man who woke up one ordinary afternoon and made a decision that didn't look ordinary at all. He walked into his boss's office, closed the door behind him, and said he was done. No safety net, no savings stacked up, no clear path waiting outside that building. Just a quiet certainty inside his chest that staying would cost him more than leaving ever could. People around him didn't understand. Some laughed. Some called him reckless. His family worried, because from the outside it looked like he had just thrown away stability. And if you asked him honestly, he was scared too. His hands were not steady. His mind was full of questions. But beneath all that noise there was one truth he could no longer ignore. He had spent years doing everything right, yet nothing was moving in the direction he actually wanted. Every morning he showed up early. Every task was completed. Every expectation was met. And still, year after year, his life stayed in the same place. Not because he lacked effort, not because he lacked intelligence, but because his effort was pointed in the wrong direction. He was climbing a ladder that leaned against the wrong wall, so he stepped away. The next chapter was not beautiful. It did not look like success. It looked like doubt. It looked like empty weeks where nothing seemed to work. It looked like waking up and questioning everything. There were days when quitting felt like the only logical option. There were moments when the voices around him grew louder, telling him to go back, to choose comfort, to stop chasing something uncertain. But he didn't go back. Instead, he made a quiet shift, not in his environment, but in himself. He stopped chasing results like they were running away from him, and he started becoming the kind of person results move toward. That shift changed everything. And this is where your story meets his. Because the truth is, most people are not failing because they are incapable. They are stuck because they are moving with the wrong mindset, speaking the wrong language to themselves and reacting to life in ways that slowly push success further away. You don't need more motivation, you need alignment. Think about your own life for a moment. How often do you start something with energy, only to lose that energy when results don't come fast enough? How often do you check, compare, doubt, and question your path before it even has time to grow? That habit alone is enough to destroy progress before it begins. There is a quiet mistake many people make. They believe that success comes from chasing harder, pushing faster, doing more at once. But when your attention is scattered across too many directions, you lose depth. And without depth, nothing meaningful is built. There was a principle discovered by those who studied high performers, not just successful in money, but fulfilled in life. They were deeply committed to their work, but strangely calm about the outcome. They gave everything to the process, but they were not emotionally controlled by the result. That difference is everything. Because when you become desperate for results, your energy changes, your decisions become rushed, your patience disappears, you start forcing things that need time, and without realizing it, you push away the very thing you're trying to attract. But when you focus fully on the work itself, something powerful happens. Your mind becomes clear, your actions become consistent. Your confidence starts to grow, not because you've already won, but because you know you are showing up the right way. And slowly, quietly, results begin to move toward you. It's like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, you protect it, and you trust the process. But most people don't do that. They plant the seed, then immediately start doubting it. They compare it to someone else's tree, they panic when it doesn't grow overnight, and in that panic, they destroy their own progress. You have to learn to separate effort from outcome. Give your effort everything. Show up with full intensity. Do your work with focus and discipline. But once it's done, step back, let go of the need to control the result. That balance, intense action combined with inner calm creates a kind of power most people never experience. Because calm people build strong things. Desperate people burn out. And here's something most won't tell you. The hardest part of any journey is not the work itself. It's believing when there is no visible proof. It's continuing when nothing around you confirms that you're on the right path. It's waking up and choosing to move forward, even when your mind is filled with doubt. That stage is uncomfortable. It feels uncertain. It feels slow. But it is also where transformation begins. The man who left his job didn't succeed because everything worked immediately. He succeeded because he stayed when nothing worked. He stayed long enough for his effort to compound. He stayed long enough for his mindset to evolve. He stayed long enough for the invisible progress to become visible. And that is what most people never do. They leave too early. They quit in the phase where growth is happening silently. They walk away just before things start to shift. You cannot build anything meaningful if you keep restarting. So ask yourself this honestly. Are you actually committed? Or are you just interested? Because interest fades when things get hard. Commitment stays even when nothing makes sense. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to move despite the fear. And right now, whether you realize it or not, you are standing in that same space he once stood in. The space between comfort and growth. The space where nothing is guaranteed, but everything is possible. What you do in this space will define everything that comes next. There is a moment in every person's life where everything feels still on the outside, but inside something is shifting. It's quiet, almost invisible. No applause, no recognition, no clear sign that anything is changing. But that moment is dangerous in the best way because it is the point where you either fall back into comfort or step forward into something that demands more from you. Most people don't recognize that moment when it arrives. They scroll through it. They distract themselves through it. They convince themselves to wait for a better time, a clearer sign, more confidence, more certainty. But that better time is an illusion. It keeps moving further away the longer you wait. The truth is, you don't become ready before you act. You become ready because you act. Think about how many times you told yourself, I'll start when I feel more prepared. And then weeks passed, months passed, sometimes years, and the version of you that was supposed to begin never did. Not because you didn't have potential, but because you kept placing conditions on your own growth. You were waiting for clarity. But clarity comes from movement. You were waiting for confidence. But confidence is built through repetition. You were waiting for the perfect plan, but the perfect plan only reveals itself after imperfect action. This is where most people stay stuck. Not in lack of ability, but in overthinking. They analyze every step before taking the first one. They imagine every possible failure before giving themselves a chance to succeed. And in doing so, they create a prison made of their own thoughts. But the ones who move forward, the ones who eventually build something real, they operate differently. They still feel fear. They still have doubts. But they don't treat those feelings as stop signs. They treat them as background noise. They move anyway, and that movement creates something powerful. It creates momentum. At first, it's small, almost unnoticeable, but over time it builds. And once it builds, it becomes easier to keep going than to stop. This is one of the biggest shifts you can make in your life. Stop asking, do I feel like doing this? And start asking, what needs to be done right now? Because feelings are temporary. They change daily, sometimes hourly. If you base your actions on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. But if you base your actions on decisions, your life begins to stabilize. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being reliable. Reliable to your own word, reliable to your own goals, reliable to the version of yourself you say you want to become. And once you reach that level of reliability, something changes inside you. You start trusting yourself, not because everything is working, but because you know you will keep showing up regardless of what happens. That trust is rare, and it is powerful, because when you trust yourself, you stop needing constant validation from others. You stop comparing your journey to people who are walking a completely different path. You stop chasing approval and you start focusing on progress. And progress, even when it's slow, builds something that approval never can. There is another layer to this that most people avoid. It's not just about taking action. It's about taking responsibility. Full responsibility, not the kind where you blame yourself harshly, but the kind where you stop pointing outward. No more blaming your past. No more blaming your situation. No more blaming the people who didn't support you or the opportunities you didn't get. Because as long as you place the control outside of yourself, you give away your power. Responsibility brings that power back. It allows you to say, "This is where I am, and from here I move forward." No excuses, no delays, no waiting for someone to come and fix things for you, because no one is coming. And that is not a negative truth. It is a freeing one. The moment you accept that your life is your responsibility, everything becomes clearer. Your time becomes more valuable. Your actions become more intentional. Your focus becomes sharper. You stop wasting energy on things you cannot control, and you start investing energy into things that actually move you forward. And slowly, your life begins to change. Not overnight, not in a dramatic movie-like way, but in small, consistent shifts that build on each other. You wake up with more purpose. You make decisions with more clarity. You handle challenges with more strength. And over time, those small changes create a completely different reality. But here's something you need to understand deeply. This path is not easy. There will be days when you feel like nothing is working. Days when your effort seems invisible. Days when quitting feels like the most logical choice. And in those moments, your mindset will be tested. Not your talent, not your intelligence, your mindset. Because anyone can stay committed when things are going well. But the real test is who you become when things are uncertain. Do you stay consistent when there is no reward? Do you keep going when there is no recognition? Do you believe in your path when there is no evidence? That is where everything is decided. The man who builds something meaningful is not the one who never struggles. He is the one who refuses to stop. He understands that success is not a straight line. It is a series of ups and downs, progress and setbacks, clarity and confusion. And instead of expecting perfection, he prepares for resistance. He expects challenges. He expects delays. He expects moments of doubt. But he moves anyway. And that consistency, that refusal to stop, becomes his advantage. Because while others quit, he continues. While others hesitate, he acts. While others wait for the perfect moment, he creates it. And over time, that difference separates him completely from the crowd. You don't need to be the smartest person. You don't need to have the best starting point. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to keep going. Not blindly, but intentionally. Not recklessly, but with direction. Not for a few days or weeks, but long enough for your effort to compound into something real. Because everything you want, everything you imagine for your life, everything you feel capable of becoming is on the other side of sustained action. Not quick bursts of effort, not temporary motivation. Sustained action. Day after day, step after step, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because something is always happening. You are either building momentum or losing it. You are either strengthening your discipline or weakening it. You are either moving closer to your goals or further away from them. There is no neutral, and once you understand that, your daily choices start to matter more. The small decisions you make begin to shape your future in ways you didn't notice before. Waking up earlier, focusing longer, cutting distractions, finishing what you start. These are not small things. They are the foundation of everything, because success is not built in one big moment. It is built in thousands of small ones. And right now, in this moment, you are making one of those decisions. Whether to continue as you are, or to shift. Whether to stay comfortable, or to grow. Whether to wait, or to act. And whatever you choose, that choice will repeat itself tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, until it becomes your life. So choose carefully, because your future is not something that happens to you. It is something you build. And the truth most people never say out loud is this: building that future is not dramatic. It does not feel like a movie. There are no background soundtracks, no sudden breakthroughs every week, no constant feeling of excitement. Most days feel ordinary. You wake up, you do the work, you handle responsibilities, you fight distractions, you deal with your own thoughts, and at the end of the day, it can feel like nothing significant happened. This is where people get it wrong. They think progress should feel big. They expect transformation to feel obvious, so when it doesn't, they assume it's not working. And because of that assumption, they stop. But real progress is quiet. It happens in the background. It builds slowly, layer by layer, like bricks being stacked one on top of another. You don't notice the wall while it's being built. You only see it once it's already standing. The same is true for your life. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are placing a brick. Every time you finish something you started, you are placing a brick. Every time you control your emotions instead of reacting impulsively, you are placing a brick. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, you will look around and see something solid, something real, something you built. But that only happens if you stay consistent long enough. There is a hidden danger that appears when you begin to improve. It's subtle, but it's powerful. As you start to grow, your standards rise. What once felt like progress starts to feel normal. What once felt difficult starts to feel expected. And instead of appreciating how far you've come, your mind shifts to what's still missing. This can either push you forward or pull you back. If you let it create frustration, you will feel like you're never doing enough. You will chase more and more without ever feeling satisfied. But if you understand it correctly, it becomes a sign that you are evolving. You are no longer the same person. Your mindset has changed. Your expectations have changed. And that means your identity is changing. And identity is everything. Because you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. If you still see yourself as someone who quits, who procrastinates, who doubts himself, your actions will eventually match that belief. But if you start seeing yourself as someone who shows up no matter what, someone who finishes what he starts, someone who handles pressure instead of avoiding it, your actions begin to align with that. So the real question is not just what are you doing, but who are you becoming while you do it? Because every action you take is shaping that answer. There will be moments when you feel alone on this path. Not physically alone, but mentally. Like the people around you don't fully understand what you're trying to do. Like your goals don't make sense to anyone else. Like you're carrying something that only you can feel. That feeling is normal. Growth often separates you before it connects you. Because when you start changing, your environment doesn't immediately change with you. The people, habits, and routines around you stay the same for a while. And during that period, it can feel like you don't fully belong anywhere. Not where you used to be. Not yet where you're going. But that space, that uncomfortable middle, is where transformation happens. It's where you build independence. It's where you learn to rely on yourself. It's where you develop clarity without constant external validation. And if you can stay strong in that phase, you come out of it different. Stronger, more focused, more certain. Most people never reach that point because they retreat when it gets uncomfortable. They go back to what feels familiar. They choose short-term comfort over long-term growth. But comfort has a cost. It feels good in the moment, but over time, it creates regret. Because deep down, you know you are capable of more. You know you are avoiding something that matters, and that awareness doesn't go away. It stays with you. So the real decision is not whether you will feel discomfort. You will. The decision is whether that discomfort comes from growth or from regret, because both are uncomfortable. But only one leads somewhere, and once you understand that, your perspective changes. You stop avoiding hard things. You start choosing them. You stop running from challenges. You start facing them. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this trying to build in me? That shift alone can change your entire life, because instead of seeing obstacles as problems, you begin to see them as training. Training for your mindset, training for your discipline, training for your resilience. And the more you go through, the stronger you become. Not just on the outside, but internally. Your reactions become calmer. Your decisions become clearer. Your confidence becomes quieter but deeper. You don't need to prove yourself constantly because you know what you're capable of. And that kind of confidence is different. It doesn't come from words, it comes from experience. From the days you didn't quit, from the moments you pushed through, from the times you kept going when it would have been easier to stop. That is what builds real strength. And over time, that strength creates a different kind of presence. You walk differently, you think differently, you carry yourself differently. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you built something inside that cannot be easily shaken. And people notice that. Not always consciously, but they feel it. They feel your focus, your discipline, your clarity. Because in a world where most people are distracted, uncertain and reactive, someone who is grounded stands out. But none of that happens overnight. It comes from repetition. From doing the right things consistently, even when they don't feel exciting. From choosing growth again and again, even when it's uncomfortable. From building yourself piece by piece, day by day. And the most important part is this: you don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need guaranteed results. You just need to keep moving. Because movement creates clarity, and clarity creates direction. And direction, when combined with consistent action, creates results. So wherever you are right now, whatever stage you're in, whatever challenges you're facing, understand this clearly. You are not stuck. You are in progress. And progress, no matter how slow it feels, is still movement forward. As long as you don't stop. And there is something else you need to face: honesty. Something most people avoid because it is uncomfortable to admit. You already know what you should be doing. Not everything, not every detail, but the important things. The habits you keep delaying, the decisions you keep pushing forward, the actions that sit in the back of your mind every single day. That quiet voice inside you is not confused, it is clear. The confusion you feel is not a lack of direction, it is resistance. Resistance to discomfort, resistance to effort, resistance to change. Because change demands something from you. It demands that you let go of the version of yourself that feels familiar. Even if that version is holding you back, it is still comfortable because you know it. And stepping into something new means stepping into uncertainty. Most people don't struggle because they don't know what to do. They struggle because they are not willing to consistently do what they already know. They wait for a new strategy, a better method, a perfect plan. But none of that matters if the execution is missing. You can read every book, watch every video, learn every concept. But if your actions don't change, your life won't either. Knowledge without action is just noise. And deep down you understand this. You know the importance of discipline. You know the value of focus. You know the impact of consistency. But knowing and doing are two completely different worlds. And a bridge between them is not motivation, it is decision. A real decision does not depend on how you feel. It does not change when things get difficult. It is a line you draw for yourself, a standard you choose to live by. Once that decision is made, your behavior starts to shift. Not perfectly, not instantly, but steadily. You stop negotiating with yourself about things that matter. You don't ask, should I do this today? You simply do it, because it is no longer optional. It is part of who you are. That is how identity is built, not through big declarations, but through small, repeated actions. And once your identity changes, your life follows. There will still be distractions. There will still be moments where your mind tries to pull you back into old habits. That is normal. But the difference is, you no longer stay there. You catch yourself faster. You correct yourself quicker. You return to your path with more awareness. That is growth, not perfection, but improvement. And over time, those corrections become less frequent because your default behavior begins to change. What once required effort becomes automatic. What once felt difficult becomes routine. And suddenly the things that used to hold you back no longer have the same power. But there is one more challenge that comes with this journey. As you start to grow, your environment may not support your growth. The people around you may not understand your changes. Some may question you, some may doubt you, some may even try to pull you back to who you used to be, not because they want to harm you, but because your growth makes them uncomfortable. It reminds them of what they are not doing, and instead of facing that, it is easier for them to question you. This is where your strength is tested in a different way, not through hard work, but through boundaries. You have to learn to protect your focus. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not every opinion deserves your attention. If you allow every voice to influence you, you will lose direction. You will start adjusting your path to fit other people's expectations, and in doing so, you will move further away from your own. So you have to become selective. Selective with your time. Selective with your attention. Selective with the people you listen to. Because your environment shapes your behavior more than you realize. If you surround yourself with distraction, you will struggle to stay focused. If you surround yourself with negativity, you will struggle to stay positive. But if you surround yourself with people, ideas, and habits that push you forward, your growth becomes easier. Not easy, but easier. And that matters. Because you are not just building results, you are building a lifestyle, a way of living that supports your goals instead of working against them. And that lifestyle is built through daily choices. What you do in the morning, how you spend your time, what you consume, who you talk to, what you focus on, all of it adds up. Nothing is neutral. Everything is either helping you or holding you back. And once you start seeing your life through that lens, your awareness increases. You begin to notice patterns. You begin to recognize what works and what doesn't. And with that awareness, you gain control, not over everything, but over yourself. And that is enough. Because when you can control your actions, your reactions, your focus and your discipline, you create stability in a world that is constantly changing. And from that stability, you can build anything. But it requires patience. And patience is something most people struggle with. They want results quickly. They want proof immediately. They want validation now. But real growth does not follow that timeline. It takes time. Time to build habits. Time to develop skills. Time to create momentum. And during that time, you have to trust the process, even when you can't see the results yet, even when it feels slow, even when it feels like nothing is changing, because something is always changing. You are becoming stronger, more disciplined, more focused. Even if the external results haven't caught up yet, the internal transformation is happening. And that internal change is what eventually creates external results. So don't rush it. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. Don't measure your progress only by what you can see, because the most important changes are happening where you cannot see them. Inside your mindset, inside your habits, inside your identity. And once those are strong, everything else begins to follow. So stay patient, stay focused, stay consistent, because the path you are on, as difficult as it may feel sometimes, is leading somewhere. And as long as you keep moving, you will get there. And one day, without warning, you will notice something that used to control you no longer does. The distractions that once pulled you in so easily will feel weaker. The doubts that once felt loud will sound distant. The habits that once defined your days will start to lose their grip. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you became stronger. This is the part of the journey people rarely talk about. They focus on results, on achievements, on visible success. But the real victory happens much earlier, in the quiet moment when you realize you are no longer the same person. You respond instead of reacting. You focus instead of drifting. You act instead of delaying. And in that moment, something shifts permanently. You stop chasing a new life because you understand you are already becoming it. But even then, the work does not stop. Growth is not a destination you arrive at once and stay forever. It is a continuous process. There will always be another level, another challenge, another version of yourself waiting to be built. And that is not something to fear. It is something to embrace, because the moment you stop growing is the moment you start going backwards. So you learn to stay in motion, not in a rushed, chaotic way, but in a steady, intentional way. You keep refining your habits. You keep strengthening your mindset. You keep raising your standards. And with each step, your life becomes more aligned with who you truly want to be. There will still be hard days, days where your energy is low, days where your mind feels heavy, days where progress seems slow. But the difference now is, those days no longer stop you. You understand that consistency matters more than intensity. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going, even if it's a small step, even if it's not your best performance, even if it feels insignificant, because small steps, repeated over time, create massive change. And you trust that now. You trust the process. You trust your effort. Most importantly, you trust yourself. And that trust becomes your foundation, because once you trust yourself, you stop looking outside for constant reassurance. You stop needing someone else to tell you that you're on the right path. You know it, not because everything is working perfectly, but because you are showing up consistently. And that is enough. There is a quiet confidence that comes from that place. It is not loud. It is not arrogant. It does not need attention. It is calm. It is steady. It is built on proof. Proof that you can handle discomfort. Proof that you can stay disciplined. Proof that you can move forward even when things are uncertain. And that kind of confidence changes how you experience life. Challenges no longer feel like threats. They feel like opportunities to grow. Setbacks no longer feel like failures. They feel like feedback. And uncertainty no longer feels like something to avoid. It feels like a space where possibility exists. This is what it means to truly take control of your life. Not controlling every outcome, but controlling how you respond to whatever comes your way. Because life will always be unpredictable. There will always be things outside your control. But when you master yourself, those external changes lose their power over you. You remain stable. You remain focused. You remain in control of your direction, and that is where real strength comes from. Not from avoiding difficulty, but from being able to handle it. Not from having everything figured out, but from being willing to move forward anyway. Not from never feeling doubt, but from not letting doubt stop you. And when you reach that level, something else begins to happen. Opportunities start to appear, not magically, not instantly, but naturally. Because your actions, your mindset, and your discipline start to align in a way that attracts growth. People begin to notice your consistency. Your work begins to improve. Your decisions become sharper. And slowly, the results you once chased begin to come toward you. But by that point, something interesting happens. You are no longer desperate for them. You still want success. You still have goals. But your happiness is no longer dependent on immediate outcomes. You find satisfaction in the process itself, in the work, in the progress, in the person you are becoming. And that shift is powerful, because when you are no longer chasing results with desperation, you perform better, you think clearer, you act with more confidence. And ironically, that is when results come faster. But you are no longer doing it just for the results. You are doing it because it is who you are. And that is the ultimate transformation. From someone who waits to someone who acts. From someone who doubts to someone who builds. From someone who hesitates to someone who moves forward no matter what. And now everything changes because you are no longer relying on motivation. You are driven by discipline. You are no longer controlled by fear. You are guided by purpose. You are no longer stuck in the same patterns. You are creating new ones, and those patterns, repeated daily, shape your future in ways you cannot fully see yet, but you will if you keep going, if you stay consistent, if you continue to choose growth over comfort, action over hesitation, discipline over distraction. Because the life you want is not far away. It is being built right now through the choices you are making. So keep moving, keep building, keep becoming, Because this is not the end of your journey. It is the point where everything begins to come together. And if you have made it this far, if you have stayed with this message, if something inside you feels different right now, then understand this clearly. You are not behind. You are not lost. You're in the process of becoming the person who can handle the life you want. And that process is the most important part of all.